Geordie journos and we're back in the backyard.
It's been a while. It's been about a year, Jordan was saying, since we were last all here in the sun. It's been a very warm day on Tyneside, but
It's like a James Trafford analysis as well. I can remember sitting on this chair.
Yeah, I remember I was not to blow me on trumpet here, but I was the only guy that was in favour of James Trafford at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily.
I don't think I was.
Probably changed my tune now though.
Very much so.
After 29 championship clean sheets.
He's alright.
Even though his value's doubled.
I think he's alright.
But yeah, on transfers.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we thought would come together. We did a video everyone supported last week. It was well watched, so we thought we'll do another Saturday video to give yourselves something to watch. You might be sitting in your own backyard while the sun shines across Tyneside. Right, everybody's talking about one subject, so we're going to start on that. Alexander Isak, everybody's talking about it. This is what we understand the situation to be and our opinions on what we think will happen on that. And in the second half, after the ad break, we will talk a little bit more about another subject that everybody seems to be talking about, which is Newcastle United's problems in the transfer market and why are they not signing players, etc. We can see there's issues. We can see there are certain problems there. However, it's easy to say that. We just wanted to delve a little deeper and analyse a little bit more about what we actually think the problems are and what the story behind the story. We're journalists at the end of the day, so that's kind of what we're meant to do. So we'll delve a little bit deeper later on in the show. Do hang on for that if you're interested in it. And of course, we'll talk Isak first up. Right, it's been a big talking point, Jordan, this week. Alexander Isak.
Yeah.
He's going to Liverpool. No, he's not. Yes, he is.
Yeah, it's one thing I would say about the Liverpool fan base is when they almost just become everywhere on Twitter, like spreads when there's any kind of Liverpool transfer link.
They are like. Remember when we got them stirred up with the referees?
Yes, that's what I mean. And there's been reports this week, certain fan channels, radio presenters maybe, have flared up the idea of Alexander Isak going to Liverpool, which has obviously caused a massive stir. It's been last 48 hours, it's been absolutely relentless. But I think from our understanding, and this, I really hope this is true, Newcastle United will not be selling Alexander Isak this summer. I can't see any way that he leaves the football club, even if Liverpool were to table a massive offer. I just think he's indispensable. I think it's a bad look if Newcastle were to get rid of him. They just qualify for the Champions League, won a Carabao Cup, possess one of the best strikers in Europe, to then lose him ahead of a big campaign, I just think makes absolutely zero sense. And I do think Darren Neal's going to his comments when we spoke to him, was it in March?
Yeah.
You've got them comments there, haven't you? What he said?
Yeah, it was just about he finds the links annoying because Newcastle have no intention on selling Alexander Isak. They've got no pressure to sell Alexander Isak. Maybe the situation was different last summer or last year when he talked about every player has a price. But the message from the very top of Newcastle United is Alexander's not for sale at any price. So based on very, very senior club sources, like, you've just got to take the word for it. Obviously, transfer windows, everything. Eddie Howe was reluctant to go that far and say Alexander Isak will absolutely be a Newcastle player next season because he said it's foolish to make such a commitment. But behind the scenes, the CEO, Paul Mitchell, when he was employed, the PIF, all saying Alexander Isak's not for sale. So you got to take their word for it.
I mean, it's no surprise that a football club like Liverpool want Alexander Isak. I think there's not a football club on the planet who wouldn't take Alexander Isak, and that's the amazing thing about it.
Especially one without a real proper striker like him, who've probably been calling out for one, even though they've had a lot of success on the pitch as well. Yeah.
But tonight I've had to accept I'm going to go out for a meal we used to because I asked Kelly Brook and she said no. I really want to go on a date with Kelly Brook. It's not going to happen though.
I didn't expect.
I was like, where are you going with that? I was like, what?
That was me little tangent. No, it's like wanting something that you can't have.
Yes.
And I think that's where Liverpool are at the moment. That yes, it's no surprise they really, really want an amazing footballer. And they can afford an amazing footballer. You just see the players that they're shipping out, and they will continue to ship out. I think Anthony Gordon's possibly the more realistic one that they could. Yeah. But I don't think Newcastle United are in it. The sense I get, I don't think they're in any mood to sell any of their players. You've seen a quick rebuffing of Man City asking the question, is Tino Livramento? We've seen it of others. We know how Eddie Howe operates. Eddie Howe will not want to lose any of those players. He doesn't want to lose anybody. I think Eddie Howe's the type, if money was unlimited, he'd have a squad of 45 players, wouldn't he?
Chelsea squad.
Yeah, he would. He would do that. I'm just joking. No, it doesn't make any sense from everything that everybody said, and you touched upon it off camera. The look of Newcastle United accepting a bid, unless it was like blow your socks off stuff, where you could caveat that with saying, I can see why you've accepted it. If it is, as talked about in the Telegraph, Luke Edwards, where he talked about, he's basically suggesting it's 200 million, wasn't he? He was sort of saying it's in excess of 150. You know, you're talking up towards 200 million quid. If Liverpool tomorrow turned up with 200 million quid and said, we want to buy him, I actually think even Eddie Howe would probably think, how much, what I could do with that money.
It's transformative money, I think, even for 150 million, which is not a price tag that's been bandied about.
Feels low, and that's so silly, but it still feels a touch low.
I think it does as well. But look, it's an astronomical thing. It would potentially transform Newcastle in terms of being able to go out and spend money. But I just think you've literally got the best striker, or one of the best strikers in Europe. Actually, I'm going to say he is the best striker in Europe based on what we've seen last season. For me, you cannot lose him. You can't replace him.
No, and you couldn't. This is the thing. So if they were to lose Alexander Isak, which we're all saying we don't think will happen, we can't guarantee that it won't happen, by the way. We're not in control of this, but what the football club have been very strong on, and to roll back on that would be really weak, is that they will not sell. I was in that meeting with you, and Darren Neal said that. He said, we're not, basically paraphrasing, we're not going to sell a player like Alexander Isak.
But that's a message you want to put out. That's a strong message, because then it's basically saying you're going to have to, without saying it, you're going to have to absolutely blow our socks off. If you show any sort of weakness, like what he said the year before, when it's like every player... Sorry, Jordan. Every player has a price, then it's like, that's putting every player in the shop window. He's doing the opposite now, and it's like, if we do sell Alexander Isak, it's going to have to take money that we're, in the current market, can't really comprehend.
Yeah, it would take a more than British record. I don't know, what's a world record? What's the world record fee for
200
Neymar
still,
I think it's going to take that money to get Isak out. It's a different story next summer.
Yeah.
2 years left on his contract. He gets in the danger zone, doesn't it?
They're gonna go it again with a contract, trying to get him signed up. That might have a release clause, it might not. I just think the sale landscape's probably different next summer, and I think Newcastle United would probably accept it. This is my opinion, not based on anything. It's just what I think the club will be thinking. I think they would reject larger bids from English clubs and accept a lower one from a foreign club. I think they'd rather sell to Barcelona, who will replace Lewandowski, or I'm just throwing names like a Bayern Munich, who are undoubtedly going to shift on Harry Kane at some point. I imagine he'll be back in England again in a year's time, and that they're the type of clubs I think that you could, and that would be a palatable sale. Even though nobody wants to lose your best players, that will be a palatable sale for Newcastle United fans. But I don't rule out in the realms of possibility, because there's a lot of water going under the bridge between now and then. It's about intent this summer. I think players like Alexander Isak, Sandro Tonali, who are the top in their positions in world football, those type of players, and then lower to that, Bruno, Gordon, whoever else is there, Livramento on the rise, Lewis Hall on the rise, and forgets about him. But these type of players, they want to see progress. So I almost, in many ways, to an extent, think that the intent Newcastle United show this summer, and the players they sign this summer, is more likely to keep the players that they want to keep moving forward than their league position within reason next year. Look, if they drop off a cliff, finish 10th, players will want to go. But if they just missed out on Champions League last year because they gave it a right go, but every day in training those players see, like, they've went and signed 4 players who level it all up, and the players themselves know, because you know as a footballer, when you're in any team at any level, you know what's around you. But if you suddenly see the levels have risen but you don't quite reach it, that still feels like progress. So I think it's about the intent this summer and the players they get in. It has to level them up, and I think you never know. A player they might be able to offer him, if they did get in the Champions League again next season, they might be able to offer him, he might not accept it this summer. 2 years left, he might accept it, because they might be able to offer a little bit more. Just dip a little bit more and say, look, sign your contract now with 2 years. It's not actually a guarantee a footballer leaves the football club. But my problem with Isak is it's a good problem to have in some ways, that he's probably accelerating on a trajectory that Newcastle United aren't keeping up with. And it's going
The
to be
squad isn't.
it's good. Yeah, the squad. And it's going to be really difficult if he continues to do what he's done in that way. Newcastle's going up, but it's not going up at the same speed, and that's when you're probably going to lose somebody like him. So there's a lot at play. I've come up with 3 or 4 different versions of what could happen here. I just don't think anything like that happens this summer. I think the look, it would be terrible for them to get rid of it. I don't think the manager will be for it. I don't think the club will be tempted by the money unless it was sort of, like I say, 200 million. And I think if the club came out and accepted it and said you cannot accept a world record bid for a footballer, then I don't think many people would complain, you know. No. But you'd never replace him. That was the point I was going to go on to before. You cannot replace Alexander Isak. You have to you'd have to bring somebody else in and do something different, because he's one of the most unique profile footballers I've ever seen. And then if you do go for one that's similar-ish, would be that Ekitike who they went for a few years ago, but he's not as good. You know, you could get similar-ish players, but none of them are Alexander Isak, and they never will be.
Yeah, I think next summer's potentially, as you mentioned, a different conversation, contract situation. There's some, I know he's got 3 years left, but if you're going into next year with 2 years left on his deal, there's a different conversation. We had Darren Hughes did sort of suggest, or did actually say when he spoke to us in March, that there would be talks this summer, or something that would be looked at this summer. Yeah. So let's see what happens with that. They're saying to him, Simon Isak isn't going to sign a new deal. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Maybe we're having a different conversation, but as I say, right now, with Newcastle looking at Champions League football again, looking to progress and win the cup last year, I think he is absolutely integral. I think that you do.
Yeah, I think Liam makes a good point about the trajectory side of things. If Alexander Isak's going to dedicate the best years of his career, it'll be 4 seasons now if he stays till next summer at the very least. It'll be 4 seasons at his peak, basically, for, you'd probably say 3 of them. He's injured first half of the first season, but if he's going to dedicate that spell of his career, Newcastle have to also produce. I don't think a player of his quality, who probably knows in the back of his mind, because we're the likes of us, the media, everyone, players, Sandro Tonali, Bruno are coming out saying he's the best striker in the world. If you're hearing that every day, your agent's probably saying the same thing, and you're thinking, in 4 seasons I'm going to come away with Champions League group stage and a Carabao Cup and another Champions League qualification. You need to be striving for more than that. That's just,
you could have sat on a bench at Man City and probably picked up, you know, or Liverpool.
No, you want to be playing, but he
you know what I mean. There's players who sit on those benches will be picking up medals, like collectors' medals.
He's a player that deserves to be competing for.
Yeah, that's the point. I'm putting myself in Alexander Isak's shoes. I'd probably say it needs to be more than what Newcastle have delivered, which has been very good, but we're used to
nothing,
not so good. So yeah, and also he hasn't really played. I mean, he's played for Newcastle, who are obviously going well in a big club in England. He hasn't played for a proper heavyweight, Borussia Dortmund sort of, but
he was
very young.
Still not the biggest club in their country, and he was a young lad.
He only played a handful of games, didn't he? He was like a signing, like a young kid, one that I thought would be the next.
Willisula.
We'll get there one day.
He's having a good Euros, Willisula.
Yes, he's doing really well. I'm pleased to see it as well. It's good to see players like that go away, and you can see that he's learned. Look, he's still raw as hell. But it's good. And the Spanish lad seems to be doing bits and bobs as well. Keep him.
Might have to at this rate.
I know. Which brings on to the next bit. I love that. You're getting better.
It's because I'm a middleman today. I need to be the conductor.
Middleman energy.
You're holding it together. Dictating the video.
Right, quick word from our sponsors. All the details is down below, and then after the break, when we finish the sponsors' words from Dom, we will talk a little bit more about the problems Newcastle United are facing and what we believe they are. A little bit of story behind the story as to the struggles or perceived struggles that Newcastle United are having so far this summer.
Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in.
We're back. That was the proud sponsors of the Geordie Journals, and all the details are down below. Do like, comment, share, subscribe if you like this kind of video. Right. We're going to be off tonight. We're going out for a curry. Hot day, hot curry.
See ya.
Clever boys.
What else better than a curry on a day?
Well, we
on a
will have
heat wave?
already had it and enjoyed it.
We will
hopefully
have
by the time
yes.
this video
I know, I'm
comes out.
timestamping it. This is Friday night, of course, when we're recording this beautiful Friday night on
We're
time.
probably feeling a little bit rough when you're watching this.
Yes.
Hopefully, we've had a good.
We always have a good night. We do. By hook or by crook. Right. So the problems beyond the problems. Are there even problems? Are there issues? I think Newcastle United have a major problem when it comes to transfer business. And I think a lot of people out there are keen to admit and criticise and shout a lot on social media, like, why are Newcastle United doing this? Why? I think it's kind of our job to look a little bit beyond the sort of top line criticism and go delve a little bit deeper. Get the spades out and go, well, why? Why are Newcastle United encompassing these problems? We've all got our contacts, we all hear information, we kind of know what the situation is. Large parts of it, we don't know everything. We're never going to know everything. No journalist covering Newcastle United will ever know anything, but you're going to know bits and bobs. And I think that's another criticism of social media. You get people coming on going, well, what's happening now? It's like, well, that's not really the way it works. Like, there's very few journalists are in absolute constant conversation with people who are doing these deals. They'll get bits, they'll be able to ask, they'll be able to come back, whatever, but they're not like literally sitting at the table.
If you believe everything Eddie Howe said, he's in the dark 90% of the time anyway, though the reality is a little bit different.
Right, so do you think Newcastle United have a problem, Don?
I don't think they should, as
Yeah.
such. I think the money is there to spend, we all know. I don't know exactly how much is there to spend, but the money is there. I think you've said off camera, there is a sort of problem where Newcastle have gone up in a direction and are competing now for players or in a market that previously haven't competed in. If you just look at Chelsea, case in point, PSR World, Chelsea blow Newcastle out the water. You're looking at using Chelsea as an example. Mark Gay, player they've sold at Palace, Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall. They've got so many academy players that they've sold for pure profit, and then have sell-ons attached to them. Newcastle don't really have that influx of money, so that's been a problem. The PSR thing.
Football rivals, but not financial rivals. That's essentially what Newcastle United are, in my opinion.
But I get the frustration because Newcastle have shown historically, the past few years even, ability to attract top level players to the club on possibly tighter budgets, or at least similar budgets to what they have now. This is a club who 19th in the Premier League attracted Kieran Trippier, okay, he wanted to come, but Bruno, when Arsenal were interested in him, Sven Botman, Alexander Isak, when Arsenal were interested in him. This is a League One winner, one of the best young strikers in Europe, one of the best young midfielders in Europe, and this is just a project they invested in. Now Newcastle have actually proven, no, you can get Champions League football, you can win stuff here, then why can't they attract the players?
I think they're shopping in the wrong market. That's my view. I think they've obviously
I think we all agree on that.
They've obviously got set targets. Names have been linked with Mark Gay, which I'm sure will come on to Liverpool links, whatever. João Pedro links with Chelsea, James Trafford got links with Chelsea as well. It seems to be Chelsea most of them, but what I'm trying to say is they're shopping in the Premier League premium market and competing for top level players that got interest in lots of other people, and it's about that creativeness in the market, isn't it? And that, again, I'm not going to sit here and go, well, that they should be targeting him from the French league and him from the Spanish league, but I would like to think for people that work at a football club and are in charge of looking at transfers should be looking for those type of deals rather than going from the players that attract plenty of interest, and you're going up the likes against Chelsea and Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal, all those teams I've just mentioned who are in commercial revenue or just revenue in general levels are in Newcastle, offer bigger wages. You may be able to say location wise, well, London, populated area, Manchester United, Manchester City, well, Manchester United is historically a big club. Newcastle are still playing catch up, and I think when you're competing against those type of clubs, it makes it very, very difficult to sign a player when they're interested. I
think it's the way I look at it is they've levelled up the market that they're shopping in, and they're shopping for good players, and good players are wanted by good clubs. And Newcastle United, when they come into direct competition with a Chelsea, They cannot offer as much money. They cannot offer London. They haven't got the prestige. They haven't got the size. They're not the size of football club because of the last 25 years.
Yeah.
The same goes for Liverpool. Liverpool is Liverpool. Manchester United is still Manchester United. As much as people really want to live in denial about it, it is still Manchester United. It's still a huge pull for footballers. Whether I think that's the best decision for those footballers to do, to go to that club, but they will. Manchester City, because of their success, is still Manchester City. They can all offer a lot more money than Newcastle United. So often when Newcastle United go for these good players, who Chelsea might be interested in, Arsenal, Liverpool, particularly domestic ones, who've got this option to choose one of those, they're now the poor relation in that group. It's good that they're shopping in that group. The difference from Newcastle have always dipped their toe into that group, even when they haven't been successful. You go back to the time when, say Bobby Robson's the manager, Kevin Keegan, whatever. Newcastle always went for these players. But what they could do then, which they can't do now in a PSL world, is players would potentially overlook. Say, well, do I really want to move Newcastle? Look, I love Newcastle. We all love Newcastle. I haven't got a problem with that. But from the outside looking in, there is still a perception it isn't the greatest place to go to. They're mad. People who think that. I don't think that at all. But there is still a perception there. Families, is there enough to do there? Is there enough, everything that goes kind of commute to different places if they're foreign, wherever. There is still that perception. What Newcastle would always get away with then, even when they didn't win things, was they'd probably just offer a bit more in terms of wages. They'd pay the fee that other people wouldn't go and pay to get these players out of football clubs. Mad deals they've done in the past. Owens, all these kind of things. Newcastle would put the money on the table and go and do those deals. PSR does not allow them to do that now. So not only do they have the disadvantages that potentially come from geography, not winning things, and you can't change that overnight. You can only change that by consistently winning things over season after season. And look, it's nice to get the first under the belt.
The Carabao Cup means nothing?
It definitely does. It meant a lot. But you know what I mean? That's a regular occurrence at Anfield. It's a regular occurrence wherever. Manchester United win things even though they're rubbish. At the minute, these big clubs win football trophies all the time, domestic, foreign, whatever. Newcastle could always compete by just being able to, the team that would be, they'd roll the dice, they'd give it a bit. PSR does not allow them to be that football club anymore, and I think they're at a natural disadvantage when they're shopping. When good teams are in for good players, Newcastle have to blow the socks off those players. They have got things in their favour. It is a football club on an upward trajectory. They could do with getting a proper bloody training ground. I would say that as well. That a footballer who is able to, you've got players coming from like AC Milan's training ground, Tonali. I mean, he must have been walking around that, which is 10 times better than it was, by the way. And they've put good money into it, and they've done good things to it. Must have been walking around going, what the hell is this, man? I've just come from that. But that's the day-to-day, by the way, that people don't really think about. This is delving.
This is your
deeper.
working environment.
This is your working environment. I was talking to you on the phone about the other day, wasn't I? I said, imagine you had 2 job interviews tomorrow at different offices, journalist offices, and you went in. One was an absolute dump, load of rubbish. It was literally walking off a high street. It was a load of crap. You went upstairs, crappy computers, and I'm always swearing these days, aren't I? And it was rubbish. And you went in the one next door, and it was lovely. Or next street, oh, this is fantastic. Got me on parking space. Lovely that. Oh, look at this coffee machine. Someone comes around with the saunas at lunchtime. This is brilliant, this. You know what I mean? Different working environments. Lovely new MacBooks, everything. All right, well, I'll take... You know what? Similar-ish money. Or even if a bit less. I'd rather work there because I go there every single day. I spend the most of my bloody life there. Footballers are the same. They go there to work. They're there from the morning. Sometimes they're there twice a day, particularly in the summer, in the morning, in the evening. They want nice working environments so they could do it, levelling up on that, which is where it comes back. I don't think they're necessarily helping themselves. They should have done more. I think the training ground could have been one of the easiest things Newcastle could have fixed. And in how long we're now for PIF? 4 years. They like to do things right, but we're not in London. I've just made that point. We're definitely not in London. It's not like you're really scrabbling around for bits of real estate in Northumberland, are you? Probably one of the most sparsely populated counties in the UK.
Possibly
I would imagine probably not far off Cumbria, maybe.
You like
somewhere like Cornwall or Devon or somewhere. We'll probably have a shout about that as well.
It's not the only one without a city. We're going off topic.
Is it really?
Well,
Blythe's a city.
First off.
Hey, the tangents. Where was I going there?
Training ground. where to build it.
I know.
You can build a training ground. You need a good working environment. There's a few things that do go against Newcastle when it comes to bringing a player and attracting a player.
You're good at rounding up, don't you? Yeah, yeah, genuinely. I think Newcastle are shopping in a market now that's really challenging. But you're right in a way that they can compete. They can sign footballers. It's a better football club today than when it signed Alexander Isak and when it signed Sven Botman.
Yeah.
And we're probably all looping around here. It probably comes round to your point.
Yeah.
Saying, are they really looking in the right market at the moment?
Almost being too ambitious.
Are they overshooting the mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going. You want to be competing. It sounds unambitious, but to actually bring people to the club, you need to be competing with maybe your Aston Villas, your Nottingham Forest, your Brightons, even like teams who you can. Villa maybe a little bit different, but you have a good chance of signing. If you go in Liam Delap, Brian and Buemo, who Manchester United and Chelsea want, Liverpool come into the equation, things like that, you probably are going to be the fourth choice. But
you have to get it right, and I think that ties into what Eddie Howe was saying. You've got to get in and act early. And people look, I say, you've got to get in these players, but realistically, let's be honest about the João Pedro situation. Newcastle United haven't heard much this week, I'm going to be honest, but they were very confident last week that things were moving in the right direction. Let's be brutally honest about that. And what you would say is, it'll be no surprise to João Pedro, his agent, if Chelsea really do want him. And they'll already have had these conversations, so you can get in as quick as you like. It doesn't mean a player's going to say, Howie, then let's just dive, let's just go.
Yeah.
They're obviously naturally going to sit around and wait to see if that, where they probably prefer to go, would come forward. We don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just going off the rumours that I've seen online in that respect. I don't know at all if Chelsea are interested. I've never heard anybody of substance say that to me in person or text message or whatever. So you just go off Romano and people like that who are talking about it.
Your mate.
Aye. Tit.
But
That's what I called him last week.
Maka and Tit.
You've had examples of some of, obviously, I know Buemo hasn't moved yet, but it looks like he's going to go to Manchester United or Tottenham, whatever. Manchester United's fine. Spurs, commercially Spurs are bigger than Newcastle, but I would always be loath to put Spurs very much ahead of Newcastle.
They're not much ahead, but the
stadium working environment in London.
it's much better. They've got those, but
big
can't compete with that. If they were the parameters you said, do you tick those boxes? Newcastle don't tick those boxes.
I think Newcastle have competed with those clubs on the pitch, and that's down to Eddie Howe, the outstanding work that he's done now.
And the players.
Yeah, that goes in with that, yeah. And now they essentially need help from those above to keep. I know the commercial levels they've raised those they've over the last couple of years, but the stadium, for example, the training ground, you just want to hear a bit more of that and hear more plans.
It was easy fixed to me.
They have continued to extend the training ground because obviously they moved the media out across the road. I think where the car park was on the right hand side, they've extended there as well, but it's still not a state of the art facility.
Short-term fix.
Because you think about the low base, the training ground, how bad it was. I mean, people take the mick about the wheelie bins or the ice baths, but that was actually reality. Whereas, look, it's a lot better than that now, but it doesn't really take a lot to get better than that.
Dom, you should have them out. It'd be lovely the night.
I've got a paddling pool.
We'll get the paddling pool out later.
Next time we do a video, we'll get the paddling pool into you from it.
No, they don't want to see that.
No, keep me top on.
What time we need?
Well, I think to bring it all back, I think when you set standards, you're almost held to those standards, and Newcastle set standards very high with the early transfer business, albeit with less shackled by PSR. But this is a recruitment team who identified players like what I said earlier, your Sven Botmans, your Brunos, even looking at short-term fixes like Dan Burn, ended up being an unbelievable signing at relatively low cost, and now he's basically a club legend. He scored arguably one of the most important goals in the club's recent history, and this is a stopgap signing. So Newcastle need to strengthen. Have shown in previous windows that they can make these type of signings in much worse situations than they're currently in. So I think that's almost where the fan frustration comes from, is they've set the standards high, they've shown they can sign players when they haven't had a sporting director in place. The club's been a bit all over the place in terms of a league position. Why is it not happening now when money is there and available? And I think it goes back to Jordan's point, which is they've almost been too ambitious. They're not being cute enough. They're not being shrewd enough on surface value. Obviously, the big name players are the ones that get back to us, get back to the media.
Yeah.
When little scouting trips to Estonia, probably they might do, but might take a bit longer.
I'll love this then. I'll love this if they sign the Estonian Messi or something. Right.
Estonia.
They've signed the Spanish Messi. Cordero.
Aye,
Well, then,
Antonio Cordero. Aye.
we'll see.
Bactan Salia. One to watch.
He turns up this summer, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Right at the end. That'll be the deadline day. Nice little announcement.
They signed a few last season, didn't they? I didn't think they thought much of the young Turkish lad.
Haven't seen
Yildiz.
Yildiz.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him, if I'm being brutally honest.
No, you know them by names.
Yeah.
Almost too
I'm
young.
intrigued to see the academy teams. I'm really going to.
I think it's come on the past couple of years, but
Gonna make
again,
a real effort
it's like
next
a
season, I
training
think.
ground from a low base.
I think we're going to make a real effort next season to get to a few more, aren't we?
Always
21s
good.
and-
Well, you're seeing the new contracts. I guess that's news that's happened the past week. Sean Neve, Trevor Sanusi, and Leo Sahar would all. I think those
great
three
things about
players
Sahar,
really,
you know.
really
Reviews do,
promising.
I've heard
They've
great
trained
things.
with the first team
Trippier region.
almost throughout.
I think did we talk about that in the video?
Possibly.
Trippier
I think
region?
you used that phrase. Yeah.
No, I've nicked it.
he's trained pretty much for the good back part of the season with the first team.
You see the club's
Sean Neve was the same.
See the club's video of Sahar when he was doing the.
That was good, eh?
It was really good. Sort of the inside behind the scenes stuff on at the training ground, match day, whatever. I mean, this is total tangent actually, but it just shows that if they're giving them a bit of media attention, they must rate him. You wouldn't put someone out there if you didn't believe in him.
I think he's a player who'll stay around the first team as well.
I think he'll make his debut next season.
Well, we'll see him in pre-season next month, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Celtic in a month's time, less than a month's time now.
They weren't daft for the Espanyol game, were they?
No, I know.
Wanted to make sure that Atletico was sold out.
Cheeky.
And then,
Cheeky Newcastle.
it was.
Well done, Peter Silverstone.
Took some stick on you last time, didn't he? But that was out the marketing playbook,
was.
that one, wasn't it?
Celtic.
Right, we've got a booking. We've got a
We do, yeah,
booking
half an hour.
at
Aye.
an Indians in town. Few pints.
Yeah.
Out with the boys. Geordie Journals out in the tune. And you'll be able to watch this day after we've recorded it. But no, do jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts on it. Are we talking rubbish or we're not? I think we had different views at some points during that video. So, right. Do like, comment, share, subscribe. We've got a booking to get to. I hope you guys do enjoy your full weekend. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are. It's lovely and sunny. Get out and enjoy the weather. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching. From the Geordie Journals.